Mind Body Life show hosted by Frederick Entenmann on Global Voice Radio on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. During his show, Mind Body Life founder and best-selling author Frederick Entenmann investigates the little-known insights and daily methods used to create explosive life transformations and transitions with those that have risen from struggle and ascended to greatness. Here is your Mind Body Life host, Frederick Entenmann.
Welcome to the Mind Body Life show. I'm your host, Frederick Entenmann. This is episode 20. I'm a former professional athlete, best-selling author of Surviving Sports, the Game of Life, a coach and consultant, and I help professional athletes achieve lasting success outside of sports and win the game of life. Today in episode 20, I'm going to go in the heart and soul of mental toughness and how to stay relaxed under pressure and increase concentration amidst the pressure and overwhelming circumstances. This can relate to real life as well. If you're feeling anxious or feel that pressure, the heart and soul of mental toughness is staying relaxed under pressure and maintaining that concentration. And I want to take you back to 2007. I grew up on the shores of Lake Erie, and Cleveland's not far away, so naturally I'm a big Cleveland Indians fan, and I grew up, I loved baseball, still do. So again, I want to take you back to 2007 in the seventh and deciding game of the American League Championship Series between the Boston Red Sox and the Cleveland Indians. And the Indians pitcher, Jake Westbrook, took the mound at Fenway Park in a rather desperate attempt to help his team win the pennant and put an end to the Red Sox's gutsy comeback from down 3 games to 1. And Westbrook had pitched brilliantly at home in Game 3 of the series, actually winning 4-2. And in that game, he threw 21 of 27 first pitch strikes and induced 14 ground outs and 3 double plays and 6 2/3 innings while holding the Sox scoreless until the 7th inning. And in this process, he got Boston's best batters at that time, David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, to ground into rally killing double plays. And Westbrook had given a master's clinic really on cool in the clutch and championship concentration. However, pressure really packed Game 7. It seemed to start off quite differently for the Indians hurler, and in the first inning, the Boston hitters jumped all over Westbrook and really made him appear quite vulnerable. And then they quickly loaded the bases and threatened to break the game wide open. So despite the fact that he was getting hit and that the raucous Boston crowd could sense, blood in the water, so to speak, Westbrook kept his cool and concentration. It was really amazing. He got the Red Sox to hit into an inning double play that limited the damage to only 1 run. So in the bottom of the second, the very same thing happened with Boston again, loading the bases. And once again, Westbrook stayed in control and really limited the damage to just 1 run, getting Boston's best hitters to ground into another inning double play. And in the 3rd inning, the Red Sox scored another run for a 3rd consecutive time. It loaded the bases, threatening to put the game out of reach with just 1 swing of the bat. And then once more, Westbrook was really a master escape artist. And he put on a clinic in maintaining his composure and focus while really chaos reigned all around him. And he efficiently ended Boston's scoring threat by inducing yet another rally-killing double play. And after that, the Indians' pitcher seemed to settle down. So with his team adding 2 runs, he retired 7 Boston hitters in a row. And as I sat watching, I was haunted by visions of Game 2 at Fenway Park, where Boston had really squandered several huge scoring opportunities to finally lose to the Indians in extra innings. So you sat there wondering, was this deja vu all over again? Because even though I'm an Indians fan, it's really, when I watch a game anymore, it's all about how the athlete is conducting business. And since I'm into sports performance, I look at it at that angle. So when Westbrook finally left the game in the 7th inning, his team was still very much in contention, and down by only 1 run, 3-2. And despite the fact that the Indians relievers then got beat up pretty badly by the Red Sox, who eventually went on to win 11-2 to advance to the World Series. I remember being left feeling quite impressed with Westbrook's performance. And I felt a tremendous respect for the mental feat that Jake Westbrook had pulled off in the hostile environs of Fenway Park during those first 3 innings, when he was just 1 pitch away from disaster over and over again. And I'm kind of using this as an example because there's numerous sports where I'm sure people could relate. But here's a guy who wasn't a franchise player, but just an average Jake, and out pitching all the other huge stars on his team. And not only that, but he happened to do it on one of the biggest stages possible, in the 7th and deciding game of the ACLS championships. Despite being faced with early adversity and failure in this game, he maintained his composure and concentration. He stayed loose and relaxed and kept his focus on all the right things. And as a result, he was able to hang in there, settle down, and give his team a fighting chance to turn things around. So in doing so, the average Jake demonstrated what I consider to be the heart and soul of mental toughness. Staying calm under competitive pressure and keeping control of your focus, of concentration. And if you have big dreams that you want to reach, if you want to take your game to that next level as an athlete or as an individual, then you need to learn and master these 2 critical components of mental toughness. Because without these essential abilities to stay cool, kind of in the clutch and focused on what's important, the blunt reality really is that you'll never rise above being an average Joe. And so in this episode 20, I'm going to explore these 2 key mental skills that form the foundation of mental toughness. First and foremost, relaxation and concentration, again, is the heart and soul of mental toughness. And let's start with some real basics here. If you want to become a champion and take your game to the highest level possible, then you have to be sure that you train like a champion. And what does this mean? I guess the most obvious part of this is that you have to pay your physical dues. Yes, you have to really bust your butt on a consistent basis and do everything possible physically to help you reach your goal. There's absolutely no substitute for hard work when it comes to being successful. There's really no way around that. I know it's cliche and trite and all that, but let's just go back to the fundamentals. That is foremost. You just can't get by the hard work component. Sorry. The less obvious part of your training and becoming a champion has to do with making sure that you also train the mental dimension, though. And the best conditioned, highest skill athlete will consistently fall apart at crunch time if he or she doesn't have his or her head on straight. That is, you can't become a champion and take your game as far as possible without developing the mind of a champion. And I know a lot of people want to know what that is. What is this mind of a champion? So having the mind of a champion in very simple terms means that you're mentally tough. And mental toughness is also, I know, a cliche in the fact that coaches and athletes and sports fans and the media constantly throw this around. And everyone talks about the importance of being mentally tough. But if you ask around, very few can actually tell you what mental toughness really means or how you should go about even developing it. So I look at mental toughness as a kind of umbrella term that covers a number of different and sometimes interrelated mental skills. When you combine all of these mental skills together into one person, the end result is an athlete who is mentally tough. So what are all the component skills of mental toughness? Came up with a list here. Well, I might have left some out. Again, I always try to stay fundamental to not induce overwhelm. And again, when I'm working with actual professional athletes, I'm able to go more in depth because we go really above and beyond, and that's a whole nother story. But components of and skills of mental toughness, staying calm under pressure. It's maintaining a physical looseness and emotional, mental relaxation when the game is on the line. It's concentrating on what's important and being able to either block out or let go of distractions. It is rebounding quickly from mistakes, bad breaks, and bad calls during the run of a game. It's avoiding psych outs. It's avoiding intimidation. It is mastering physical and emotional adversity and pain and discomfort. It is effectively handling last-minute negative thinking and those self-doubts that creep in. It's maintaining control of your emotions and believing in yourself no matter what. It's being self-motivated, and it's having that winning self-confidence. Again, these are the basic building blocks of mental toughness. There's a very small percentage of athletes who seem to naturally have a lot of these mini skills as part of their personality. Actually, most athletes are born with a good head on their shoulders, so to speak. They might be laid back or rarely get freaked out under pressure and have no problem focusing on what's important. And mistakes don't seem to faze them, and their confidence level remains steady even when they fail or run into obstacles. These mentally gifted athletes are certainly the exception to the rule. The vast majority of athletes, however, struggle with one or more of these mental skills. Some, in fact, struggle to the degree where they may have earned themselves a reputation of a head case. And I've seen plenty of those. Actually had plenty of those on my, unfortunately, on my teams. But, these athletes tend to get too nervous right before big competitions or overwhelmed with worries about how they'll even perform. So when they make mistakes, they may be inclined to hang on to them for long periods of time and use these miscues to fuel their self-directed anger and frustration. And so these mentally challenged athletes may get too caught up with their opponent's size or strengths and skills, and so as a result, frequently end up psyched out or intimidated. When these athletes lose or fail, they really tend to beat themselves up for the failure and use it as evidence that they simply aren't good enough. So if this description seems to fit you, really, not to worry. Don't worry at all, because the good news about mental toughness is that with a little work, even you can learn to systematically develop the mind of a champion. It's just like learning a new skill, and that's all it is. It doesn't matter if right now you see yourself as a, 98-pound mental weakling who's always being bullied around by mentally tougher athletes and consistently stealing defeat from the closing jaws of victory. It's like anything. With regular training, you too can strengthen your mental muscles so that this part of your game becomes a huge asset rather than a liability. Of all the mental skills that make up the mental toughness kind of umbrella, by far the two most critical ones are relaxation. The relaxation is the ability to stay calm and composed under pressure. And then the second one is concentration. And concentration is the ability to focus in on what's important and let go of everyone else. So without these two critical mental skills, you'll really be completely lost as an athlete. And difficulties in one or more or both of these two skill areas always plays out as repetitive sports performance problems like choking or slumps or blocks, performance blocks, and etc. For example, show me an athlete who consistently chokes under pressure, does better in practice the competition, or loses control of their emotions during a competition, or who constantly underachieves. And I will show you an athlete who does not know how to control their focus of concentration or stay calm when the heat of competition is turned up high. Relaxation, concentration really are the heart and soul, again, of mental toughness. And without them, there can be no mental toughness, and your head will continue to sabotage your body and performances. Relaxation and concentration are interacting mental skills, and that each enhances the other. For example, when you focus on the right things, you'll be far more likely to remain calm and composed. And then similarly, when you're relaxed and loose, you'll be much better able to focus on what's important and let go of distractions. In this way, relaxation enhances concentration, and concentration deepens relaxation. And of course, the reverse of this is also true. When you focus on the wrong things right before and during a competition, your stress level and anxiety will go sky high. And when you're overly nervous in this way and jittery, it will then be virtually impossible for you to get control of your concentration and focus on the right things. So let's take a technique like look at both of these key components to mental toughness and exactly what can you do to strengthen your ability to stay calm under pressure and focus on the correct things. Now, you can actually do training relaxation. One of the biggest secrets to peak performance in every sport and at every level is really more or less it's actually as intense as some of it looks. It's actually played on relaxation and poise. That's in order for you to do your best, you must stay loose and relaxed both before and during your performances. And every great athlete I've ever talked to or worked with or even seen in an interview, they've always said that the same thing. Staying calm and relaxed is the biggest and most basic secret to performing to your potential. But keep in mind that staying relaxed doesn't mean that you won't feel some like butterflies in your gut at performance time. That's normal. You have to be excited in order for you to do your best. And in other words, you have to kind of be amped up a little to get yourself to play at your best as well. If you're totally relaxed when it's performance time, you'll really end up being flat. So remember, pre-performance, I guess, jitters, I like to say more excitement or, that good nervousness. It can go hand in hand with being loose and relaxed. There's always going to be a little bit of jitterness or excitement. So staying cool, calm, and collected under pressure is actually a learnable skill. Even if you're an anxious person in other areas of your life outside of sports, you can still learn to master this really crucial mental skill. And like any skill, the more time you have to invest in practice, the faster you'll learn it and the more ability you'll develop with it. But if you have a pre-performance nervousness problem and you never spend any time practicing how to stay calm, then you're going to reinforce it and continue to have a pre-performance nervousness problem. And I'll briefly go over the steps that athletes can go through to stay calm under pressure. Again, it's just going to be brief. Of course, when I'm coaching personally, we go deeper, but by necessity, some of these steps have been, shortened. And it's also because learning how to relax under pressure, it's really an extensive topic. And it's one that's best hand-tailored to meet the specific needs of each individual athlete as well. So it's good to know that. I'd say step one is really reading yourself. The very first step in developing the ability to stay cool and calm in the clutch is awareness. You have to learn to read yourself pre-performance in relation to how nervous and excited you actually are. And some people might be wondering, what does that mean? Every athlete experiences stressors in the competitive environment differently. And that is what makes one athlete totally fall apart performance-wise might help another athlete perform to their potential. And the trick is to know yourself well enough so that you understand the difference between your good and bad levels of nervousness. How well you perform is always directly related to your pre-performance level of nervousness or physiological arousal. If you're too aroused or too nervous or excited before the start of your competition, then your body will respond by physically tightening up and then shutting down. And when you're in this over-aroused state, or what's called bad nervousness, you're most likely to choke in your performance. And no one, regardless of skill level or experience, can perform to their potential when in this bad nervousness. And if you go into competition and the good nervousness or at the optimal level of excitement and physiological arousal, your timing and focus will be heightened. Your muscles will stay loose and ready to respond as trained, and you'll perform to your potential. And on the other hand, if you go into competition on what's called a not enough nervous or not up for it, then you won't be physiologically ready to perform to your potential. And being in not enough nervousness is really what happens to athletes and teams when they're overconfident or don't really care about the performance. Might also explain in this past NCAA men's basketball tournament how a number 16 seed can beat an overall number 1. You simply can't walk onto a court and expect to win when you can imagine the physiological preparedness of a number 16 seed as you're going to go against the number 1. That's exactly how the number 1 seed was Virginia. That's how they lost. Most athletes who struggle with performance problems do so because they suffer from bad nerves and they haven't yet learned how to calm themselves down pre-performance. It's very rare that an athlete consistently struggles because he or she is always in not enough nerves and before the competition starts. So because of this, I'll direct my remarks to the problem of bad nervous. And the task for you as an athlete is to develop enough awareness pre-performance so that you can identify the differences within yourself between good and bad nervous. For example, if you know what your own personal signs are of bad nervous and you begin to recognize some of these occurring an hour before you're about to compete, then there are some specific things that you actually can do to calm yourself down. However, if you don't know how to read yourself and with that awareness and can't identify the impending signs of bad nervous, then you'll end up going into the contest too tight and, as a consequence, perform badly. So how do you learn to read yourself? You experience nervousness or physiological arousal in 3 different ways. You experience it physically in your body. For example, shallow and faster breathing, increased heart rate, the tighter muscles. You could even start yawning and have dry mouth, or increased sweating, butterflies in your stomach. You might even have to run to the bathroom. You experience it mentally. That is what you think, where you put your focus on concentration, and what you believe are all different depending upon whether you're in good or bad nervous. You experience physiological arousal behaviorally or by how you act pre-performance. And that is, some athletes sit quietly by themselves before a performance, while others frenetically bounce around and are quite talkative. So whether these physical, mental, or behavioral signs reflect good or bad nervous directly depends upon you as an athlete in your performance history. And that's really, if you think back to several past great performances and how you felt, thought, and acted right before them, then you'll get a good idea of what your signs are of good nervous. And similarly, if you think back to several really disappointing outings and how you felt, thought, and acted before them, then you should get a good idea of some of your signs of the bad nervous. And you may discover that before your great performances, you only focused on yourself and had no thoughts at all about the opponent or the outcome of the game, match, or race. It's these kind of mental signs that indicate the good nervous. You might also notice that when you look at games you choked or played poorly, your pregame focus in these competitive situations was on how good your opponents were or how important it was for you to play well, and your worries really about failing. These will then be considered your mental signs of bad nervous. So keep in mind that without an awareness of where you are in relation to good and then bad nervous pre-performance, you'll never really be able to get to consistently maintain control of how well you perform. And if you know what your personal signs are of bad nervous, you'll then be in a position to use the other following steps in calming yourself down. Now, step number 2 really is switch your concentration away from the uncontrollables. One of the main causes of the bad nervous or bad nerves or physiological overarousal is allowing your focus of concentration to go to things that you really can't control. And choking is most often triggered by the athlete focusing on the uncontrollables. An uncontrollable is anything before or during the performance that you have no direct control over. And the key word here is direct. When you focus on these uncontrollables, you'll get yourself nervous, undercut your confidence, and ensure that your performance will go down the tubes. And if you want to calm yourself down right before an important performance, you'll have to do 2 things. First, you must know what the uncontrollables are in the upcoming competition. And then secondly, you must keep your focus away from those. And if you think back to any times that you choked in the past, then I can guarantee that either before or during that performance, you were focusing on one or more of these uncontrollables. And therefore, when you go into your next performance and you want to stay out of the bad nervousness, you must be sure that you really keep your focus of concentration away from these uncontrollables. So what are the uncontrollables? The outcome of the performance, as in winning or losing, really. Anything in the future, like your goals in the game, how many points you want to score, hits you want to get, your worries about messing up, so on and so forth. By the way, in terms of messing up, if you have a coach that's applying so much pressure that if you make one mistake and then takes you out, you're in the wrong program. Okay? It's never serving. So just get out and leave. A little words of advice. An uncontrollable is your opponent and everything about them. Their size, their strength, their speed, their talent level, their reputation, attitude, style of play, anything in the past, like a mistake or error, or the last time you played on the field, how warm, warm-ups went, what happened last year in the same competition, the officiating, how important the competition is, the crowd, how big it is, who's watching, so on and so forth. It could even be other people's expectations of you, or what they might think or say or write about you. The coaches, everything about them, attitude or behaviors, comments, policies, the playing time, how they handle your mistakes, whether they yell or not, the weather on the field, competing conditions, how you feel that day as in physical health, injury status, fatigue level, how well your teammates play, in luck. In every sport, there's actually some form of good or bad luck that determines scoring and contributes to the outcome in things going on in your personal or academic life outside of your sport. Step 3 is really relaxation techniques, and there's a wide variety of relaxation strategies that you can use when you notice yourself heading into that bad nervous. If you want to practice these enough on your own, then you're not under pressure, and you'll find the skills that you develop hold up for you when the heat, the competition really is turned up high. However, if you never practice these skills or any relaxation technique, you will continue to get too nervous under pressure. So number 1, distract yourself from the contest. Typically, when an athlete has a lot of time to think about an upcoming performance, they'll begin to stress out. And you can avoid this and keep yourself in good nervous by deliberately distracting yourself from thinking about what's to come. So talk with friends or teammates about something fun, relaxing that has absolutely nothing to do with the game or match or race or whatever. Read a book or keep busy, watch a movie. Do whatever you can to fill any and all empty time leading up to the competition so that you don't spend it working yourself into a stressed out basket case. Number 2, very common, listen to music. A lot of athletes like to use music pre-performance to both distract and calm themselves down. But you have to know if music tends to work for you. Then make it a habitual part of your pre-performance routine. Number 3 is really develop and consistently use a set pregame and performance ritual. This could involve stretching a certain way, listening to a specific, your specific music again, talking to your coach, going over the upcoming contest, repeating certain or very familiar movements that you use to warm yourself up. Rituals are always calming because they are familiar. So get in the habit of developing one today. Stretch with awareness. Stretching is a great way for you to physically and mentally calm yourself down as long as you stretch correctly. When you keep your concentration on the stretching while you do it, I think all too often athletes will do their pregame stretching, but as they do so, their mind will be on the upcoming game and the opponent or any number of things that might freak them out, So when you stretch in this way, you do not derive any benefit from the stretching. Instead, you want to stretch with awareness. And that's while you're stretching one particular muscle group, you want to focus all of your concentration on the feeling of that stretch. And in fact, you want to breathe into each stretch as you focus on the feeling. Sometimes it helps to keep your eyes closed as you do this to help block distractions out and amplify the feeling of the stretch. Number 5 is deliberately slow and deepen your breathing. When you breathe slow and low in your belly, you're going to physiologically calm yourself down. Anxiety speeds up your breathing and it forces it high in your chest and throat. So by deliberately slowing your breathing down and making sure you breathe from your diaphragm, you'll be able to calm yourself down. And at night before bed, you can practice taking 3 minutes of these slow, deep breaths. Number 6 is tighten and relax. If you notice you're feeling tense right before performance, isolate the specific muscles that feel tight and then deliberately tighten them. Hold the tension in for a slow count of 10 and then release them. And then you repeat this procedure. So by tightening already tight muscles, holding the tension for 10 seconds and then releasing, you'll notice that your nervousness really begins to diminish. Make friends with your nervousness. That might sound funny, but too many athletes begin to panic when they even notice that they're feeling nervous right before a big performance. So by fighting with your nervousness in this way, you'll only make it worse. Instead, accept that you're feeling nervous and even allow yourself to experience it. Don't label it as bad or try to wish it away. In a funny twist, when you accept that you're nervous, your acceptance of it will actually calm you down. Lastly, I just want to say, develop a safe place to go to pre-performance. Some athletes calm themselves down pre-performance by mentally leaving where they're at and going to a safe or relaxing place in their mind. And this mental place could be a favorite beach or lying on a dock by a lake, hiding in the woods, or simply hanging out alone in your room. Be creative. And by mentally leaving the stressful environment, you can, in effect, calm yourself down. So the key to this strategy certainly is practice. Right before bed, practice leaving and going to this mental place. You have to practice it, or it's just not going to work. So see, hear, and feel yourself there, and then hang out for a few minutes before sleep. And then by regularly going to the safe place, you'll be able to find it available to you when the heat of the competition is turned way up high. The second master skill of mental toughness really is concentration. So like relaxation, by regularly practicing this skill of focusing, will fine-tune your ability to concentrate on the right things at the right time. If you don't have the ability to control your concentration, then you'll notice that your performances are consistently inconsistent. So by mastering concentration, you'll also increase your self-confidence and improve your ability to stay calm under pressure, which is major. And in my experience as a professional sports consultant, the vast majority of performance problems like slumps or blocks or choking or out of control emotions and performance inhibiting fears they're almost always fueled by faulty concentration. And that is, focus on the wrong things both before and during your competitions, and you can really be guaranteed a subpar performance. Concentration isn't really good or bad. It's just where you place your focus of concentration. And think about it as a flashlight shining in a dark room. The athlete who chokes under pressure and the athlete who rises to the top with a clutch performance both do an equally good job of shining their flashlight or focusing. The only important difference is what they concentrate on. In your worst performance, you're actually doing a great job of shining your flashlight on all the wrong things. And in your best outings, you're focusing that flashlight in all the right things. So simply put, you're always concentrating both before and during your performances. The important question here is on what? I can briefly go back to my story about the Cleveland Indians pitcher Jake Westbrook during the American League Championship Series deciding Game 7. Under extreme pressure, he really kept his flashlight shining on what was important in his situation, the catcher's mitt or his target, and what was in front of him at that moment. He didn't allow his focus to really or scatter to the what ifs. What if they blow it open here? Or what if I give up a grand slam? Or what if I blow it for my team and we get eliminated because of me? Or to the hits that he had already given up to load the bases, as a matter of fact. A great definition of winning concentration is the ability to focus on what's important and let go of everything else. And then your job then is to go into any competitive situation and find what's important while simultaneously letting go, concentration-wise, of everything else. The very first step in learning to do this is to develop an awareness of when your focus is on the wrong things. The wrong things to focus on in any competitive situation are usually anything outcome related, like winning, losing, making a mistake, qualifying for the next round, so on and so forth. Things in the past, like mistakes, previous bad performances, a frustrating or tough week of practice, what happened the last time you played this team, etc. The size of the crowd and who's in it, the officiating and whether you think it's fair or not, or the coaches and decisions that they make regarding your playing time or the playing conditions, the weather, so on and so forth. And you'll notice that almost all the things that you don't want to focus on, that you instead want to let go of, are what I call, again, the uncontrollables. Since you can't do anything about these uncontrollable factors, you don't want to waste your energy paying attention to them. So instead, you want to discipline yourself to only pay attention to those things that you have direct control over. Now, this is great for life as well. Only focus on what you can have direct control over. And of course, this is far easier said than done. But before we discuss exactly how to do this, let's spend this last little bits of time defining what's important for you to even concentrate on. When I even talk about focusing on what's important and letting everything else go, what's important has two really basic dimensions. It's time and place. And the time dimension of your concentration has to do with the past, the present, or the now, and the future. Whenever you concentrate, whatever you're aware of it or not, your focus is always on one of these three mental times. And over the course of a competition, your focus may very well time travel back and forth between these three times. When you're in the past, you're really concentrating on mistakes you just made, previous losses, perhaps the last time you competed in this tournament, how your training went the last week or two, or how you felt in warm-ups. And as far as your performance goes, mentally hanging out in the past will really get you into hot water. When your head's in the past, you're no longer paying attention to the important cues going on in the now. This means that your timing and execution, they're just always going to be off. So very similar, having your focus in the future on the what ifs. What if I mess up? What if I lose? What if I choke? So, etc. Or something coming up later in your performance, it's going to generate excessive anxiety and things like muscle tension, and it's going to just tighten you up and shut you right down. So in fact, the choking in sports is a direct result of the athlete leaving the now and time traveling into the future. So to play to your potential, you must have the discipline. You really have to discipline yourself to stay in the now of the performance. And this means you have to keep your concentration on what's going on in this moment, moment by moment, play by play. This is an absurdly simple concept to understand, yet exceedingly difficult to consistently do. I'm going to discuss how you do this again in these last moments of the show. In the second dimension of concentration is one of place as well, and that's when you focus. You can have your concentration in the right mental place or any number of wrong places. And the right place is on you, what you are doing at the moment. The wrong place is on other people around you, like your teammates or opponents or the refs or the crowd or the coaches. To perform to your potential, you must learn to stay centered. And the heart of staying centered is keeping your focus just on you and your job. Athletes always tend to get psyched out or easily intimidated when they allow their focus to drift away from themselves to how talented, strong, or fast an opponent might be. If you get a bad call from the ref and you're upset about it, then your focus is not on you, but the ref. If you're worried that the coach might bench you, then your focus is on the coach, not you. If an opponent is talking smack at you or playing physically rough and you get emotional about that, then your focus is on them and not you. To play the way you've always been trained, you must develop the ability to really focus on you, and that's it. So to sum it up, really, focusing on what's important means to keep your concentration on what you are doing in the now. And you have to develop the two-part mental skill of concentration. First, you have to become aware of the instant that your focus drifts from what's important. Second, you must quickly return your focus to what's important. Concentration is a very simple kind of recognize and return skill. And you must recognize when you've lost your focus and immediately bring it back to the task at hand. As an athlete, especially if you're professional and you want to be elite, it's important to understand that a break in concentration will never hurt you. Losing your focus isn't the problem. What hurts you is break in focus that you don't catch. For example, you make a mistake, and 3 to 4 minutes after the mistake, you're still thinking about it. And losing your focus is actually a very normal occurrence and one that you shouldn't fret about. And in fact, on a typical day, you might lose your focus quite a bit. And your drifting in these situations will never sabotage your play as long as you're on top of the drifting. And then you return your focus as quickly as possible. Just try this simple exercise to strengthen your concentration muscles, and it'll be a good start. So take a ball or a puck or some other object from your sport and place it 4 to 5 feet away from you. This is a little concentration exercise. Pick a spot on the object for you to comfortably rest your eyes. Sit with your feet flat on the floor and then focus on your spot and put the rest of your concentration on your breathing. Keeping your breath normal. Just concentrate on the feeling of the air coming in as you inhale and exhale. And as you get distracted from either the object or your breathing, catch yourself and quickly return your focus to the object or your breath. Remember, it doesn't matter how many times that you drift. It only matters that you quickly return your focus each time. So do this exercise in your room with no distractions for 2 minutes. And then next, take your object and place it on top of a TV set with your spot facing outwards. So sit far enough back from the TV so that in order for you to see your spot, you must also see the entire screen. Turn the TV on low volume and tune it to a station that you would never watch. And then do the same exercise. Focus, you want to focus on your spot and the breathing, but remember to catch your focus and bring yourself back every time. that you get distracted by either the sound or the pictures. Do this part of the exercise for about 1.5 minutes. So when practiced regularly for short periods, this very simple exercise will help you systematically develop and strengthen your concentration muscles. And soon you'll discover that you'll begin to more quickly catch yourself when you lose focus in your sport and have the ability to return to your focus wherever it belongs. So remember that both the heart and soul of mental toughness are really within your grasp. And you have to learn to stay loose and relaxed under pressure. You must develop championship concentration. So like I said, focusing on you and the now. They are your mental toughness, really 1-2 punch. So make the commitment today to begin to work on these 2 mental skill areas, and you'll soon discover that your performance levels will rise. Mental toughness should not be something that you wish you had. It should just be something that you recognize in other athletes, really. And mental toughness is really well within your grasp if you begin to systematically work on it. It takes work. It's a skill. So start today by training yourself to stay calm and focused in practice, and it will pay off tomorrow when you compete. Now, lastly, I'd like to end episode 20 with a little tale or story. This is called The Mountain. And a father and his young son were hiking high up in the mountains one day when suddenly the boy slips and falls, badly scraping his knee. And the scrape is painful, and the boy reflexively screams out, "Ouch!" And to his complete surprise, the boy hears a voice repeating, somewhere way up in the mountain, "Ouch!" Now, curious, he yells, "Who are you?" And almost immediately receives the answer, "Who are you?" And frustrated by this response, he screams, "Coward!" And quickly he receives the answer, "Coward!" And now angered, he screams out, "You're a loser!" And immediately he gets back, "You're a loser!" Then as his anger grows, he yells out, "I hate you!" And quickly his answer comes across the mountain, "I hate you!" Now frustrated and puzzled, he looks his father in the eyes and asks, "What's going on?" And the father smiles and says, "My son, pay attention." And then his father screams out to the mountain, "I admire you." And the mountain voice answers, "I admire you." Again, the father yells out, "You are a champion." And the mountain quickly answers, "You are a champion." The young boy certainly is puzzled, but still does not understand. Then his father explains, "Son, people call this echo, but really this is just life. Life always gives you back everything that you say or do. Our life is simply a reflection of our actions. If you want more love in the world, create more love in your heart. If you want more competence on your team, improve your competence. If you want your teammates to be more intense and committed, then you need to be more intense and committed. If you want your friends to be honest and trustworthy, then you need to be so, because the world really is a reflection of you. This relationship really applies to everything in all aspects of life. Because again, life always gives you back everything you have given to it. And your life is not a coincidence. It's merely a clear reflection of you. I know that took a little time to get through, but I want to thank you for listening to episode 20 today. If you know a professional athlete, please send them my way. Professional athletes need so much help these days. My goodness. If you want to contact me or link up professionally, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook if you want to check out my business page. You can check out my Instagram for further insight, and Twitter. as well, all under Frederick Intiman. Take care until next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. Listen every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern to Frederick Intiman host Mind, Body, Life. Connect with Frederick at www.globalvoiceradio.com. Tune in next week for another edition of Mind, Body, Life on Global Voice Radio.